Thank you. It'll actually be a little bit different of a subject, but that's okay. I bet you AI summarized it for him and hallucinated the copyright part, but we can get in there. But professional engineer licensing is sort of what we're going to talk about. Why does this? So I want to talk scientist versus engineer, right? So you have chemists, chemical engineers, applied mechanics, structural, nuclear physicists, nuclear engineer. You've got a mix of things, computer science into software engineer. One of the weird things about the software engineering industry is there's only 21 accredited SE programs versus 258 CS programs. So we're actually really light in an engineering practice regard. So a professional engineering license, it's an official cert, allows you to sign off on plans, things like that. So it's more for your civil engineers, things along those lines. State licensure is really what this comes down to. It's essential for public safety infrastructure. It's this sort of like industry gold standard in that realm, in that world, basically for projects involving the public. They allow for personal liability. So the actual person holding the license can be held liable. Personal consequences of lawsuits, criminal exposure, financial consequences, loss of license. But doesn't insurance offset personal liabilities? Without a license, it does. It really actually is pretty effective. But the license makes things that insurance policies won't cover, right? So intentional misconduct, fraud, you're going to be basically on your own for those fees. Defense costs, sometimes that's separate, sometimes it's not. Insurance won't protect your PE license from suspension and revocation. It won't cover criminal liability. And premiums increase dramatically after claims, which makes it hard for you to, stay in business. It enforces a culture of accountability. Regulated environments have this to a degree. With a licensed individual, it has to maintain their license, bleeds into the culture at large, right? It's sort of like that one person spreads within the organization culturally. Where software engineers should have been held liable, right? So you got the 100 times radiation doses that killed 6 people. You had the Toyota unintended acceleration. You had Knight Capital, which was $440 million loss, right? You can look up the details on this. The interesting thing when you look up the details, individuals that implemented this were not held accountable. Why no individual liability? There's no licensure framework. Corporate liability shields employees. Technology breaks is sort of like accepted as inevitable. There's no regulatory body to sanction engineers like you have in PE. But it was tried. We actually tried to deliver a software engineering license. Just like no one did it is basically what this says. And the other interesting part is 40 states technically have laws requiring licensure for software engineers working on public safety systems, but no one enforces it. Why it didn't work? No enforcement, state boards, laws exist in paper, but the professional accountability infrastructure never materialized. Why does AI make this more important? Today, AI has no legal personhood. Today, corporate personhood exists to offset the risks of those individuals. AI companies are expected to generate greater concentration of money with less employees. When AI is applied to critical situations, there needs to be governance combined with personal accountability. The downsides of licensure, there are them. Economic slowed, social movement, licenses slow moving up. There's like economic hairdresser licensing studies on this if you wanted to get into it. And it basically just can slow some things down. So maybe innovation can be unencumbered, but implementation can. So if not the engineer, then the operator. License the operators. This is done in many industries. Follow the nuclear reactor and the air traffic controller model. Difference is few high-risk, complicated decisions versus many high-risk decisions in those two. It keeps humans in the loops long-term, maybe better than engineering licensing, and it creates a new jobs category. Where should it be applied, right? So a lot of the failure areas that we talked about there, right? But basically anywhere an industry is regulated by government is probably an interesting starting point. I think one of the other parts that really shows up in here is the criminal justice and sentencing algorithms. I think that's really a thing that doesn't get talked about well, is needing some operator licensing. The other ones I think everyone else is equally afraid of. And accountability is good for society. I think that's just sort of like in general a good premise. So if you work in one of these AI companies, try to see, can you find a way to gain licensure to prove society you have some accountability? as individuals. The PA government can lead the way. You want a data center in PA, show your engineers and operators are licensed and individually accountable. And I think like the fun thing, no matter what political side you are, they probably want to create new job classes. So this might be an interesting way to like get them motivated on this type of thinking. So yeah, that's not copyright.